Hello and welcome back to Bossing English with Mr. F, not to be confused with Bossing ASMR with Mr. F, which is where all the real money's made, haha. Right, I thought what could be useful, more useful than the video I did on looking at some academic essays which I have pulled because I wasn't very happy with it. Following up on the unseen extract that we read and analysed together on dystopian literature, I thought what could be useful would be to see a model answer written by me, but with certain provisos, which are the following. Let me just get this so I can write on it. These provisos are, number one, it's written by an adult and not an A-level student. So you need to bear that in mind, that obviously with that wealth of experience that comes with being Mr. F, I'm writing in a way that would be not impossible, but unlikely from an A-level student, and no one's expecting you to write like this. Number two, I am not writing under exam conditions. I've typed this, I've had some time to think about it. I didn't spend ages on it, but I've had more time to reflect on it than you may have or would have in an exam. So it's not in exam conditions. That's the second proviso. So bear that in mind, right? So it's a model answer in that there are things in there that would be meeting the AOs. We have, as we remember, we go back up here, I'll just get rid of that. If I go back up here, we can see what the AOs are. Language, structure, form. So I should be doing some analysis, 75%. AO1, critical concepts, argumentation, academic register, and AO3, thinking about the timeline of dystopian literature, contextual information, other texts that may be in dialogue or conversation with this extract, and obviously, fundamentally, thinking about what makes this unseen extract sound dystopian. All right, let's have a look. I'll read through it and I'll just talk through things that I think are hitting some of those AOs. I probably won't do them in different colours. I'll probably just do them in green like that. The extract's shock opening narrative gambit immediately instills the dystopian genre trope of... I'm just going to move that across there. There we are. That's better, right? The extract's shock opening narrative gambit immediately instills the dystopian genre trope of human regression to a savage state. When the medical professional, protagonist, beautiful, look at that, with a G, Dr. Robert Lane is seen eating a domesticated animal, man's best friend no less. So in terms of what's going on here, well, it sounds quite academic, doesn't it? Opening narrative gambit, so that's kind of thinking about the form and structure, of this text. We start to get into a bit more nitty-gritty here. The almost throwaway deadpan tone, a bit of terminology with which this is phrased, evidence from the text. Later, as he is sat eating the dog, ... so I kind of cut out to shorten the quote. He reflected on the unusual events, suggests a satirical bent, a critical concept at play by the author. J.G. Ballard is at work, which is typical of the genre, bringing that back round to dystopian genre, which brought him in to use a nice bit of terminology there, trope. The huge understatement, so now I start to do some kind of deeper AO2 analysis here. The huge understatement of the adjective unusual seeks to downplay the clearly catastrophic shift in social mores that has taken place. Okay, so that's really kind of hammering the dystopian vibe there. Further clues of this deadpan satire are revealed with the fire of telephone directories, a symbol, lovely, of civilized order now being burnt, we assume, to roast the Alsatians' back legs, before Lane returns to civilization to give a lecture at the medical school. An unnerving schizophrenic world is hinted at where barbarism and civility are somehow interwoven. Right, that's great, isn't it? I probably could have extended that, so it's really nailing the AO1 there. This is a bit AO2, isn't it? There's a bit of a kind of the effect created by having this jarring juxtaposition. Maybe that would have been even better to kind of pursue that a bit more. The jarring juxtaposition of barbarism and civility side by side. So I think I could have fleshed that out a bit further, and maybe talked about, you know, there are questions that need answering here, in that you know, that it creates mystery and intrigue and a reason to read on. All right, let's just scroll up and carry on. What dominates this extract, however, is the huge apartment building setting. So there's a nice embedded quote there, isn't there? And some terminology, which is foregrounded as a locus of failed utopian ideals. So that's really academic register. Absolutely nailed there. The title High Rise engenders images of high-rise apartment blocks, and the extract seeks to impress upon the reader a sense of vastness, and I support this with quotes from the text, and immensity. So I could, if I wanted to, I could really pinpoint out that was AO2 with maybe referencing imagery. But I do that here anyway. The metaphor of cliff face of the building creates the sublime scale of the building, which seems to dwarf the human lies within it. That's not very well phrased, is it? So my AO1 would kind of suffer a bit there. It's a bit gobbledygooky. So I think that could probably do with a bit more work. Okay, let's carry on. Hopefully it improves. Right. Enormous buildings are often used. So now I zoom out to a bit of AO3 and think about the timeline of dystopian literature. Enormous buildings are often used to represent tyranny in dystopian works, such as the vast white Ministry of Truth in Orwell's 1984, used there to physically represent the omnipotence of the party. So there we can see what we mean by, you know, some of the AO1 academic register. The extract apartment block, however, is more in line with Brave New World's from 1932, idealised future living experiments and laboratories with the matter scale of the concrete and glass, especially as Huxley's work similarly shows savage human instincts are always at risk of disrupting the ideal and causing civilization to regress. So that's quite nice, isn't it, in terms of AO1 there. That's a kind of useful parallel that I found. What I'm doing with my text is also giving the dates, just to kind of show that there's a timeline, knowing that this is 1975. Yes, I kind of linked to that here, so I couldn't find that for a minute. Linked to the 1975 date, this places the extract in the middle of the brutalist movement of architecture. So there's a really nice bit of AO3 that isn't about the timeline of dystopian text, but also about like world events or cultural events that are happening. Whose utopian ideal of vast concrete edifices to achieve social happiness have clearly failed. High Rise, then, recalls both communism's failed experiments in social living and Brave New World's idealised future living experiments. Yet the character, so I really bring this back to the extract here, has mixed feelings about his situation. The verb, so it's a nice close AO2, exhilarated, shows that optimism about the opportunities this failed utopia presents, whereby repressed human appetites can be indulged in. The dog. Again, I could have expanded this because there are other moments, I think, where he seems to, there's almost a perverse thrill in the situation he finds himself in. The mysterious events of what has caused the fall of this utopian space are hinted at via a semantic field of militaristic language. I really bang on the AO2 here. Supported with quotes, an early skirmish ground, a regime of trivial disputes and opportunities for violence and confrontation. I maybe could have zoomed in on those a bit more. A flashback to an exploding champagne bottle is described similarly. Its shrapnel-esque sharp fragments and the verbs hurtled and burst make it feel like a bombshell that exploded. So this is really kind of better, I think, deep, close analysis. This ominous atmosphere, so that's the effect, typical of the genre, is further enhanced by sinister adjectives such as the aggressive record player, over-animated chatter, all implying a breakdown in social structures, which is, you know, the dystopian atmosphere, isn't it? So that's kind of implicit there, not explicit. Okay, let's carry on. All right, well, we're at the end, but I just wanted to show you where I could have gone with this. This seems inevitable where hierarchy has been established, and I would have started to talk about both within the building, there's a hierarchy of which floor you live on. We can clearly feel that. And also outside, where there are these reclamation zones and this kind of, us versus them, the people within the apartment and the people without. And I would have kind of brought my answer to an end by looking at the end of the extract, and maybe found a way to sum things up there. Maybe possibly another AO3 link to a relevant text, whether it was a short story or a novel, or maybe. All right, hopefully that has been more useful than the last video I recorded. You know what to do. Smash that like button. Do something really nice to the subscribe button. Be on the lookout for Bossing ASMR with Mr. F. Just kidding. And I will be back with better videos like this anon. Bye for now.